Hello everyone out there in Mr. Arnold's CHC2P class. Today we are going to look at Unit 1, Activity 6, Were the 20s Roaring? And specifically, you are going to be looking at the Roaring 20s and gathering some information regarding that. So I had a question today about how to fill out the assignment. So what I've done is I've gone into Unit 1, Activity 6, and I've gone down below the expectations, the content, and clicked on the assignment itself. So let's look at what one of the activities or assignments are for this assignment. So there is a blog post you need to do first. And then if you go down, you're also going to be analyzing primary sources here. But the piece that I had the question about is called Assignment 3, Inquiry into the 1920s, which calls upon you to critically analyze some of the ups and downs or progress of the 1920s. So if you look at this, it says the 1920s were a time of great challenges and change. Some of the changes contributed to progress and some to decline. The question remains, did the 1920s roar? We need to figure out if most or all Canadians experience the progress, and what does progress mean. So what they do in this part of the course is they in fact give you 3 criteria for progress here, and you have to explore some of these themes regarding progress for certain types of people and for certain events. So you can use items like the Canadian Encyclopedia, you can use Canada, a Country by Consent, and there's a link to that you can go to and find, for example, how women were treated during that time. So I'm going to make this a little bigger for you. Okay. So, what I did to find information for this was I looked at Unit 1, Activity 6, and then I looked in the content. So here, under content, there are some pieces about Aboriginal, well, it says Aboriginal, but Indigenous Canadians. We look at residential schools here. There's a clip called The Good Bright Days to get an overview of the 1920s. There's also a piece about the economy here, and then of course there's resources. So what I did was I clicked on an overview of the 1920s in Canada, and that brought me to Canada, a Country by Consent. So you can see down here that if we look at this quote, that women were finally allowed to vote, they were still struggling to earn decent wages or get decent jobs. In 1929, women were at least granted the right to be considered persons, which allowed them to qualify for appointment to the Senate. So what we have here is we are looking at equality. We are looking at equality, and equality being one of the criteria that was in the original assignment criteria here. So we have equality and respect between citizens and government. So this is the equality of women. We look at higher quality of life, and we look at greater rights or freedom. So if we talk about women's struggle, them getting the vote, but at the same time not earning as much as men, but also at the same time becoming persons in 1929, we can look at that as a number of pluses and minuses. So if we look at, say, women gaining the vote, that would be a +1 because they gained greater rights and freedoms. If we looked at them being considered persons, that would also be a +1. So well, actually, it would be a +2 because we have the greater rights and freedoms and the equality and respect in citizens of government. So let me show you now how that works, exactly how that works when we put it into the living graph. So the living graph, if we click on it here, and I'm going to make a copy of this so I can add some information to it. Save it as Google Docs. And now I can add my own information. So you can see that this is where we're going to add some information in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to put in a drawing, a new drawing in here. And my drawing is going to have text, and I'm going to say women are considered persons under the Constitution. I'm going to save that, and then what I can do is I can move my little box around. So I know that women were gained some equality and also the right to vote. So I know that is a +2. I'm having a hard time moving around here now, but that's okay. So, not a +3, but a +2. So, I'll just put it in here. That it's +2. Because it meets 2 of the criteria that are on the graph. So, aside from the graph being a little funky and wonky to add anything to, and to put your numbers in here, you can still put on the graph what the numbers are, and I'll be able to understand it. Maybe I can change this and make it so you can add boxes in here and it's a bit easier to do. Alrighty, if you have any questions, please send a message to the pager, and if not, that's great, and I hope this video helped.